One last sip of beer. We have a great show coming up with both our guests Ron Hiller and Chali back with us, talking about cruise etiquette and the dining room, the food selections and the differences between anytime dining and scheduled dining. Ron Hiller is with us and he's been cruising since 1990, so he has a lot of stories. Remember to type your questions in the comments and we'll have our guests be able to answer them. Now get ready for some fun because this is Cruise Week TV Live. Hello everyone, my name is Matt and I'm a newbie cruiser with only one cruise under my belt. I know very little about cruising, so in order to find out more, we bring on experienced people in the cruise industry and ask them for their stories, experiences, and general tips and guidance. We also give you the opportunity to ask questions by typing them in the comments, where our show's producers will pick them up and pass them to me, so type your questions and we'll get to them. My co-host Chali will be talking about the dining options and dress codes a little later on in the show, and feel free to ask her questions about that. But before we get to that, Ron, I want to tell you about vMix, because without them, we wouldn't have such a professional looking show. They produce the live video production software that drives our show, and now with vMix 19, it allows us to handle up to 8 guests at the same time. If you're thinking about producing a live web show, you need vMix. For a totally free 2-month trial of the software, go to vmix.com, and we thank them for the support of our show. So, Ron has been cruising since 1990 and has 8 cruises booked ahead so far. Ron, welcome, and I have to ask, with 8 cruises booked, do you live on a cruise ship?
You would think so with 8 cruises booked, but keep in mind I live in Arizona, so when I cruise I like to do back-to-back cruises, so those 8 cruises are really 4 trips back to Florida, so it's not like I'm going to be on a cruise ship for the next 6 or 8 months. But absolutely, for me to fly to Florida, I've got to take advantage of the time I can get over there. So doing back-to-backs is the way to go. I'm looking forward to all these cruises I've got coming up.
Nice. I am so looking forward to my cruise as well. So let's start from the beginning. You started cruising in the 90s. What were the ships like back then?
Well, back in 1990, right now Royal Caribbean actually has a ship that I sailed on. My first cruise was on Empress of the Seas. At the time it was called Nordic Empress, but they went ahead and sold it about 5 or 6 years ago, then brought it back so that they could actually do Cuba cruises. So my first cruise in 1990 actually was my honeymoon cruise, and I went ahead and we booked that and got on Empress, or Nordic Empress at the time. And when we first walked on that ship back in 1990, I thought it was the largest cruise ship I'd ever seen. That was my first cruise. So when you compare Nordic Empress today compared to like the largest Royal Caribbean ships, there's no comparison.
No comparison.
Allure of the Seas is like 5 times the size of Nordic Empress, but back in 1990, it was a great ship. We had a great time. We saw a lot of went to Coco Cay for the first time, a small private island, very primitive at the time. They've built it up since then, but had a great time on Nordic Empress, and we started from that cruise and we never looked back.
What type of amenities did they offer in the 90s on some of their old cruise ships? I would imagine they wouldn't be as complex as before, because now in Royal Caribbean, they even have ice rinks. Ice rink in the middle of the Caribbean. That's pretty impressive. So what did they have back then?
Well, back then they actually had just the main dining rooms. They had a casino on board. They had about 2 or 3 bars, so it's really no different than it is today. So in terms of amenities, there weren't a lot of amenities. People sailed back then to really experience, I believe, the islands, because it was brand new cruising for a lot of folks. And so of course you had a pool on the upper deck, bars. There was no rock climbing walls. There was no ice skating rinks like you mentioned. There were no specialty restaurants. You ate in the main dining room. That was a big event. Everybody dressed up. I know we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. But I wore a suit and tie to dinner. It was an experience, and everybody ate in the main dining room, or their Windjammer was there as well, but most everybody ate in the main dining room. So it was a basic ship. And it also had, I'm just trying to remember, it also had like a gym that you go to in a spa. You could get your hair done. I know a lot of the women like to get their hair done when they go on cruises, and so they had a nice salon there as well. So it was a basic ship with the basic amenities. But I tell you what, we had a grand old time in that ship. It was good. We went to some cool ports.
The important thing is, did they have a basic drinking plan, or did you have to pay for drinks one by one?
Yes, they did. Well, let me rephrase that, Matt. And that is, no, they did not have a drink plan. I can tell you what no, my second cruise was on Majesty of the Seas.
Mm.
Now, my former wife and I, we used to love to drink, and we used to like to get expensive bottles of wine. So
Okay.
on Majesty of the Seas, it was a 7-day cruise. When we got the final bill at our cabin, it was $1,900. Most of it
Oof.
was liquor. I mean, because we were buying pretty expensive bottles of wine at the time, so it was pretty expensive. No, I wish they would have had a drink plan, but they didn't.
Mm.
And then after that, though, we kind of curtailed that because that was a shocker to us. Back in the early 1900s, you couldn't really follow your bill on a TV screen like you can today. You'd actually have to go down to guest relations and ask to see a running total, which we didn't do. We should have done it, but anyway, we still had a good time. Yeah, I wish they would have had a drink package, definitely.
Pippa asks, did they have a midnight buffet?
Oh yes, the midnight buffets. Now, when I cruised, I always ate at the 8:30 seating, the late seating. So you would get done with dinner at about 10:30, and then you'd go to the late show, whatever the show was. And they had some pretty good shows back then. They had a Beatles cover band that went out and did all of the music. They were really good. So when I got done eating at 10:30, you go up to the midnight buffet. Now they would do
Mm-hmm.
it a couple of times per cruise, and what I liked about it is I wouldn't go eat because I was still stuffed from dinner, but they had these beautiful ice sculptures that you could see, and they would be up there in the evening carving these ice sculptures that were beautiful, and the spreads were unbelievable. Those midnight buffets were something to behold, and I would maybe sneak some shrimp and maybe
Mm-hmm.
a couple other things with a late night cocktail. But I couldn't eat that much because I was still full from dinner. But yeah, the midnight buffets were unbelievable. A lot of fun back then.
See, when I hear midnight buffet, that's something that kind of triggers my interest a little bit there, because the only buffets that we really had on Carnival were kind of the pizza, but you had to wait in a nice 30-minute line, usually about 2 a.m. after everyone stopped drinking, so it was all you can eat pizza, but it was really pizza only every 30 minutes, and they only give you half a pizza, so midnight buffet sounds a little bit more interesting there.
And Matt, just to kind of allude, yeah, that was a great point. Now, Royal they no longer do midnight buffets,
Mm-hmm.
simply because they have the cafe promenades on a lot of their ships, where you can go down, you get a sandwich or pizza or some late night snack, or go to the, some of the other places that might order room service, for instance, things like that. So they've kind of got away from the midnight buffets, but I kind of miss those because just if you saw these really beautiful ice sculptures, I don't know how they did it, but they were cool to see. And I've got a lot of pictures that I took of the ice sculptures because they were really works of art.
I would love to be able to know how to carve ice sculptures. I've seen them, and it just seems like something that I would not have the patience to be able to do that with. I am kind of artistic some type of aspects, like working with clay, but ice, no, it melts. Plus, I don't like being cold, so Florida was a good choice for me as well, coming down from up north. Not a big fan of being cold. We actually have a question from Bob Lemmings on Facebook. He says, Ron, you and I have been cruising the same amount of time. Remembering back when the ships were small, all teak wood and brass, the service was impeccable, and the dress was formal. Which type do you prefer, then or now?
Boy, I wish I could combine both of those. Because there's no doubt that the service has dropped a little bit over the years,
Mm-hmm.
but the ships have gotten so much better. When I cruise today mostly because of the ships. I love the large ships that Royal Caribbean puts out there. The Allure of the Seas, the Navigators, those types of ships, because of all the amenities that you have on board, the specialty restaurants. You've got all these other things. What I miss about the old days was the dining experience because it has dropped a little bit. And I think a lot of the reason is because of all the choices that are out there as well today, and just the mere size of the ships. It is a different dining experience. So I would like to combine the two. I would like to have the service from the old days. Not that the service today is bad. Don't get me wrong; it's still pretty good. I still enjoy my cruises, and most of the time I have great service. But I see some areas that could use a little bit of improvement. But again, that's you see that in a lot of different things. But so I'm going to kind of cheat here and say I would like both. A little bit of each. But I love the ships of today. There's you can't compare the ships of today that from the old days, because they're just totally different ships. They go further. They go, and Royal Caribbean goes all over the world now. That's one thing I love about Royal, is they're just not sailing out of the United States. They're sailing over in Europe. They're sailing Australia right now. You can take you can go on a Pacific cruise from Seattle all the way down to Australia for 24 days if you want. You can go to China. I mean, they're everywhere. So that's what I love about Royal. So that obviously they didn't do that in the old days. They were basically a Caribbean cruise line back in the 90s. But definitely. I want to compare. I want to combine both if we can. That would be great.
I mean, you can't really beat the classics, as I always say. So, being on so many different cruise ships in your past, you must have been able to pick up some of the codes. So, what does the code Alpha 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 mean? And I feel like there's a good story behind that as well.
All right, here we go. Yeah, the Alpha 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 basically means medical emergency on board. And unfortunately, back in, I'm trying to remember the year, 2010, we were on Mariner of the Seas. Now, we had got on board, we ate lunch at the Windjammer, we went back to our cabins, and for some reason, all of our clothes, all of our suitcases were there. Sometimes they come a little bit later, but our suitcases were there. So we went ahead and unpacked all of our clothes, and then we went up, my daughter, let me just preface this. I was sailing with my then wife, my kids, my daughter, my son, and they both brought friends, so there were 6 of us. So my daughter, her friend, and I went up to the sailaway, and if you've ever seen any of my periscopes, I kind of get kind of crazy at sailways. I like to dance and do funny things. So we're actually up on deck during the sailaway. We just left Long Beach, and we're about ready to leave port, when all of a sudden we hear Alpha, 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 medical emergency on board. Okay, I'm thinking, uh-oh, there's something going on here. We had just left the port. We had just got out in the ocean. And literally about 2 minutes later, the captain comes on and says, excuse me, but we're going to have to slow down here so that a Coast Guard cutter can come up alongside of us. And they actually came to a stop. And we're going to have to transport a patient off our ship onto this Coast Guard cutter. And I'm going, oh, that poor person. They just got on the cruise ship. I really felt sorry for him. 2 minutes later, I hear, Ronald Hiller, would you please come down to the medical center, Ronald Hiller? And I'm going,
oh no.
And my daughter and her friend and I looked at each other, and we just ran down to the medical center. Well, we didn't run down. We got on an elevator, went down to the second deck. And there was my wife, who is a pediatrician, was in the medical center with the doctor, and my son's girlfriend, who came along on the cruise, they had diagnosed her as having an appendicitis. So it was my group of 6 people that were involved in this medical emergency. And so the doctor basically said, the Coast Guard cutter is going to be here in 5 minutes. You need to go back to your room, pack, and then get off the ship. Okay. So that's when we decided my son, his girlfriend, and my wife were actually going to get off the ship. And then I was going to stay on with my daughter and her friend. But literally within 10 minutes, we were a group of 6. I remember standing at the bay when the Coast Guard cutter came up. I helped them get on the Coast Guard cutter. And then they wheeled out Amanda, that was my son's girlfriend at the time, and they put her on this Coast Guard cutter, and they sailed away. And I remember standing there going, oh my goodness, what just happened? You know what I mean? I was in shock. I mean, what are we going to do? Oh my goodness. Anyway, so that was a bit of an experience. To make a long story short, because I've gone on along here, she ended up being okay, actually. It was some gastro problem that she had in the hospital. They were able to work with her. And about 2 days later, they were able to come back on the ship, and they met us in Cabo San Lucas, and they came back on board. I tell you what, I was scared. And I want to give Royal Caribbean credit here, because they were so good through those 2 days. They allowed me to make phone calls, as many phone calls as I wanted to. I was talking to my wife then, and my son Scott almost 3 or 4 times a day. And a little bit of advice: we did not have travel insurance. So luckily, Amanda's folks paid for everything, because what happened was they got her into Long Beach in the hospital, and then my wife and my kid actually got a hotel there for a couple of days before they could fly down to Cabo and jump on the ship back, back on the ship with us. So anyway, that was something else, and I hope I never go through that again. I hope nobody ever goes through that again. But again, who would think that kids would need travel insurance? They were 16, 17 years old. But you never know, right? You just never know.
So, do you get travel insurance now, having that type of experience in the past, or do you still travel a little bit unprotected?
Uh, do I have to answer that question, man? I sometimes do and I sometimes don't. Now, my travel agent, who's Jason Poole at Cruise Planners, actually always asks me, do I want travel insurance? And sometimes I get it, but generally I don't. Now, since I'm getting up there in age, I probably should really start thinking about it. Especially the cruises I plan to go on in the future. I plan to do Europe a lot, maybe next year. And I definitely should have it over there. And I'm doing Cuba coming up here in May for the first time on Nordic Empress. I'm looking forward to that. So I probably should start thinking about getting travel insurance, no doubt about it.
Our camera guy and producer as well gets travel insurance every single time, and he always tells me, get it, get it, get it. I'm like, nah, it's what, maybe $25, $100, $50. I'm not really sure the exact price. If any of you guys know, or if any of you guys watching get travel insurance, let us know what ones you get and why you get it as well. So I don't know, I'm, young, everything like that. I think I'm impervious when on vacation, but a lot of people don't think they can actually get injured on vacation. It just seems like, oh, everything's just going to work out. How many people have actually had any incidents or accidents while on vacation? Not just a cruise ship, just vacation in general, but also cruise ships too.
Oh, absolutely. And you see that all the time. And it's, if you're going on a tour, for instance, and I saw that you might get stung by a stingray, or you might get, or a jellyfish. If you're snorkeling or doing stuff like that. I've done some scuba diving off of Cozumel. And I had to swim around jellyfish. That's the last thing you want to do, So yeah, absolutely. You'd be surprised. You might hit your head, break an ankle on some tour. You never know what's going to happen. So, I would recommend getting travel insurance, but I can't sit here and say get it, because I don't get it sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of like Russian roulette. You're not really sure when you're going to get sick, but it's sometimes best to have it just in case. Haley with a flare from Periscope says, yes, got sick and quarantined for a day. Oof, that's definitely a doozy. Hopefully I never have to get quarantined or that sick. I've been on vacation a couple times and I've got, food poisoning here and there, or I got like really bad sunburn, but nothing really like too serious. I think food poisoning is probably the most common type of injury that I could really think of. So, how many different cruise lines have you actually been on from the 90s to now, and what cruise bookings do you have in the future?
I've been on 3 cruise lines. I've been on mostly Royal Caribbean. I've been on 13 Royal Caribbean ships. I was on Norwegian Star when it sailed around Hawaii, and that was back in 2000, I believe. And then I was on the Disney Magic. So those are the 3 cruise lines I've sailed on, and Disney Magic again was in 1999. Disney Magic was the first cruise that I took my kids on. We took our kids on together. Before that, we didn't take our kids with us until they were 7 or 8 years old. Now they have really good kids programs, especially on Royal Caribbean, where you can bring them when they're younger. So we waited for a little while. Plus, it was nice to get away, just the 2 of us, leave the kids at home with Grandma and Grandpa, and have some alone time as well. So those are the 3 cruise lines that I've been on.
What do you think are the best cruises to go on by yourself, in a relationship, and with kids?
Oh, wow.
Loaded question there.
So with cruise lines or cruises?
Let's do both. Why not?
Okay, well, cruise lines, I think Disney is probably the best cruise line to go on with kids. However, it's very expensive, and Royal Caribbean is up there as well. I can't really talk to Norwegian, or because we did take our kids on, and they had a pretty good program, but that was 17 years ago. So I don't know what they're doing today in terms of their kids program. But I can tell you this: Royal Caribbean has a great kids program, all the way from 3 years old all the way until they're 18. They can do all kinds of things. My kids loved being a part of that kids program. Now, whether types of cruises, that's going to vary amongst the person that's actually taking the kids. I know, would I take my kids to Cuba right now? I probably wouldn't, but I would probably go on a larger cruise ship just so that they would have things to do. Things like that. So Caribbean cruise with your kids, I tell you what, with the islands that are out there today, and a lot of all the cruise lines have islands. They can have a blast at these islands. So it all depends on what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how often you can do it. See, I'm what I call semi-retired now, Matt. So I can kind of cruise when I want to. So you're not going to see me cruising in the summertime because that's generally when the rates are the highest.
Oh yeah,
or around
for sure.
holidays, because again they jack up the prices in. So I look for deals and try to go on when I can. Solo cruising, Norwegian, I understand, is a really good cruise line for solo cruises. They do a lot of good things for solo cruises. Now, that's what I'm doing a lot now, is I'm solo cruising. So I've done everything from couple cruising to kids, family cruising to now solo cruising. So, but I love Royal Caribbean and what they do, for the solo cruiser as well. They have solo cabins now, so they're starting to make some changes as well. So yeah, lots of options out there. But hey, whatever you do, get out on a ship and do it. That because you can have a great time no matter which cruise line you go on. I've never had a bad cruise ever, and I've been on 15 cruises. It doesn't matter what cruise line it is, you can have a great time.
So, what's the reason you haven't been on Carnival? Because you listed the other ones, but not Carnival per se.
That's a great question. I was waiting for you to ask me that question, Matt, because there's a lot of Carnival people, and that when we first started cruising, my wife and I sat actually back in 1990. There was no internet, there was no computers, so you actually had to go to a travel agent and actually sit down and talk to a travel agent. And this travel agent, as long as with some of our friends as well, have been on Carnival cruises and Royal Caribbean cruises, and I think Princess as well. And we sat down with a travel agent, and everybody should do this, by the way. Sit down with a good travel agent, and they're going to go over what you like about, what you want to do about cruising, what you don't want to do, what you like, what you don't like, as a person as well. So we sat down with our travel agent, and after a long conversation, we decided to go with Royal Caribbean. Now, just like a lot of your Carnival viewers as well, when we start cruising with a certain cruise line, you start earning perks while you go. So, for instance, I've been on 13 Royal Caribbean cruises. I'm at a status now where I get a lot of perks while I'm cruising. So, for me to maybe go to Carnival, which, by the way, I have nothing against Carnival, and one thing that Royal Caribbean doesn't do anymore is that sail out of California, and I know Carnival does. So there may be a Carnival cruise coming up on my agenda maybe next year, because for me, it's a 6-hour drive over to California, and I can jump on a Carnival cruise ship and go. So, yeah, that's the reason why basically I haven't cruised Carnival, because I've got all this time with Royal Caribbean built up, and I've got the perks, the diamond status, etc. So,
makes sense.
So yeah, that's basically the reason why. And I'm sure Carnival people feel the same way. Now, when you cruise with a line that you become comfortable with, you love the people you cruise with. You love just the cruise line itself. You become accustomed to certain cruise lines. So
nice. I mean, that all makes sense to me. I mean, the more perks you have with one cruise over another, that really makes sense, just to kind of get your customer kind of satisfaction out of it, building perks over with one cruise line over the other. So, final question for you for the night, and then I'll let you go on with your life. So, have you ever watched anyone be left behind, a pier runner? And this comes from Barb McCudden. Sorry if I butcher anyone's name. Barb McCudden Pepper. There we go.
Oh, yes, I've seen many drunk pier runners.
Oh, no.
Yes, and that's always funny because you can watch them coming back, and they're kind of, staggering, and you have one person holding the other one up, and they're kind of running back, and the ship had just left port, and the captain did not send out a dinghy to get these people. So that was in, I believe, Cozumel a while ago. I'll tell you a quick story, Matt. I was in Curacao on Splendor of the Seas back in 2001. Excuse me. My brother and I are sitting drinking Heineken, smoking Cuban cigars,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden we hear the ship's horn go off. Now, if you know anything about Curacao, they have a bridge that moves, and we were about 2 miles away from the actual cruise ship. We hear the 15-minute horn go off on this cruise line, on our cruise ship. Okay, we're drinking, having a good old time. We take off running to the cruise ship. Okay. All of a sudden, this bridge that actually kind of moves out started to move out
Mm-hmm.
and open up. Okay, so we couldn't get across that canal to get to the ship. We had to wait for this other ship to go through before it closed and allowed us to get back. We almost missed the ship by 1 minute. They were actually grabbing the gangway to pull it inside, and my brother and I jumped on and got on the ship. Meanwhile, our wives are up on the top deck laughing at us because we almost missed a cruise ship. So I learned a lesson about that. Make sure you get back to the cruise ship at least an hour in advance. That's my motto today. I make sure I do that. So
Understandable. So do you remember when I said that was my last question? I lied. One more thing that came up that I missed over in my notes. Tell us about the Jones Act, because that's something that I had no idea about, and you seem pretty knowledgeable about that. So, what is the Jones Act? This is the final question, by the way.
yeah, and this might be a little long story, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you anyway. Sorry about that, folks. But the Jones Act basically is a law that was written, I believe, about almost 100 years ago, back in the 1920s or 30s, I believe. And basically, in terms of cruising, the law reads like this: any foreign flag ship that leaves from American port and comes back to that same American port has to sail to a foreign port. And as you know, most of the vessels in Carnival and Royal Caribbean, all the cruise lines, they're always flagged in the Bahamas or what have you. So they're not registered in the United States. So when I was on Norwegian Star, we sailed in Hawaii. Now that was before. Now the Norwegian Star is actually a foreign flag ship. So in order to comply with the rule of the Jones Act, we had to sail to a foreign port. And now, is there a foreign port around Hawaii? Well, there actually wasn't a port. There was an island called Fanning Island. So we had to take a day trip down to Fanning Island, and we had to visit this island. And it's a primitive island, and they tendered us off this ship. And we got on this island, and it was like going back into it was just, people were in straw huts, people walked all over the place, but it was a very primitive island. And my kids that came with us, they actually got to go to a school and see kids sitting on straw on the floor, writing on chalkboards for their lessons for the day. And Norwegian would do this, and they would bring supplies to the island as well. It took us a day to get down and a day to get back. So that was 2 days out of a 7-day cruise. But that was one island that I will never forget. It's one of my favorite places I've ever gone to. And a lot of people haven't gone to that. It's called Fanning Island in the Republic of, I think, Kiribati. I think that's how you pronounce it. But that was a good time that we had there. And of course, that's all because of the Jones Act. We had to go to a foreign port. Now, the Pride of America, I believe Norwegian has in Hawaii, and that's a U.S. flagship. So that can go to all the islands. It doesn't need to go there anymore. So, yeah, nice. that was a fun trip.
Well, thank you, Ron, so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you being here and kind of spreading your knowledge with all of us. Definitely good information to have with some of your tips and tricks, because getting on an hour before might just save you from a very quick run to your ship.
Hey, you're welcome, man. Can I just say one more thing? Yeah, you can follow me at rcperiscopers.live. I know you had Kat and Ken and also Rick on a couple of weeks ago. I was there, actually, as part of that Super Bowl cruise. But come join our group, rcperiscopers.live. We'd love to have you join our group and watch us periscope on Royal Caribbean cruise ships. And I'm under Big Dog Ron AZ. Anybody wants to follow me? You like that name? Yeah, okay. Big Dog Ron AZ. And I can't wait till next week, Matt, when I can go back in the comments and ask funny questions again.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I had a good time.
Course.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep, see you later on. This week's photo comes from Mark and Sandy Robinson, all ready for their cruise. I always love the ship as the backdrop. Remember, if you want to be featured on our Show Us Your Face segment, send in your pictures to photos@cruiseweek.tv, and maybe your photo will end up on our show. So, we will be back on ships again. March 27th is our next cruise date. We are going to the spring break cruise with Cruise Life Cargo and Kelly Brewer Travel. We're going to be streaming live from New Orleans, and on the ship all week, and we'll be bringing you all an amazing day trip to Cozumel that Thursday with our tour guide for that day, Adrian from Cozumel Tours. Our weekly show that week will be on Friday, March 31st, and I'll be hosting it live on board with plenty of guests popping in and saying hi. Season 2 for Cruise Week will be in October. This is the big one, featuring 5 first-time cruisers to join us on our amazing adventures. If you know anyone who hasn't cruised before and would like to have them apply, then send them to cruiseweek.tv to fill out our application. Now, Chali is back, and she has a lot to say. Tonight, she'll cover the do's and don'ts of dining on the ships. Hey Chali, how's it going?
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Gonna have our
Doing
little
it
wine.
pretty
And it's
fantastic.
Chali. It's Chali.
Chali, it's good enough. So, tell us about dining on the ships.
Well, I have some notes, not lists, but I did, I thought maybe everybody would like to know not only the official dress code that Carnival has listed on the Carnival website, what you can and cannot wear to the dining room, and then also all of your different choices for eating. I mean, there's of course all the restaurants that are already included in the price of your cruise, and then Carnival also has several dining options that you can pay a little extra for and do that. So I thought that's where we'd kind of go tonight and kind of clear all that up, because in CCPPF, boy, it's a hot subject. I'll tell you that, boy.
So, are cheetah prints allowed in the dining hall? That's probably a good question to ask first.
Of course. You
Of
have
course.
to wear your cheetah. If you're going on the Diva cruises with us, we have a cheetah night one night on each cruise where we all wear animal print. It's called Divas Gone Wild. We wear our cheetah ears and our cheetah print and everything. It's a lot of fun. But we're the divas, so it's not like we're showing up in a, cheetah tank top. We're dressed. We got our pretty dresses on and our pretty outfits. So, and it's super fun.
So,
Let me
what
just
can
say
we
real
wear?
quick, this last Diva cruise that we went on, the only men that are allowed to come on the Diva cruises are our manservants. They have to agree to be a manservant in order to go. So, Sir William Burton showed up at my cabin, knocked on my door, opened the door. He is in a cheetah print, purple velvet pimp suit with the cane, with the walking stick and everything. It was fabulous. Well, we had like 60 of them following him around on the ship. He was so proud. He had all the divas following behind him. It was great. They all had our cheetahs.
So, what can we wear and what can we not wear for anytime dining and formal sit-down dining?
Okay, so I did notice that I can't remember the name of the person that had commented, but they had asked Zach, to make sure that this was not my opinion of what you can wear to the dining room, but what is the official Carnival dress code this is for the main dining room. This doesn't include necessarily all the other restaurants. It would include like the steakhouse and things like that, where you dress up a little better. In fact, the steakhouse, I believe you have to wear a jacket. That's in my notes, not my list, my notes. But so in the dining room with Carnival, I am going to read this off, so I want to have it correct. So, what they call cruise casual is and that goes for the dining room as well. And let me point out that they're very lenient about this on the very first night of your cruise. They're well aware of the fact that some of you may not have your luggage yet. You may not have, your suit packed and your backpack that you brought on. So they're pretty lenient on the first night about these particular things, because if you boarded the ship in your shorts and you don't have your luggage and you still want to eat dinner, they're not going to probably tell you can't eat dinner on the first night. But so basically for cruise casual, for the men, they list sports slacks, khaki pants, jeans not cut off, dress shorts and collared polo shirts. Women, summer dresses, casual shirts, pants, capris, dress shorts, again, jeans, not cut off jeans, blouses and tops. Not permitted ever, whether it's in the elegant night or cruise casual, cut off jeans, sleeveless men's shirts, t-shirts, gym or basketball shorts, baseball hats, flip-flops, and bathing attire.
Oof. That's
Then,
pretty much like 7 weeks out of the day. It's just pretty much my whole entire outfit is what's not
and
allowed.
I have to tell you, being a female is really great in this because, so, most people know I'm from Texas.
Mm.
Uh, you know, we have lots of, I mean, we wear flip flops to the dining room. I'll be honest, and a lot of women probably do, but because our flip flops usually have sparkles and crystals and spangles and you name it on it, so they don't look like flip flop. They're talking about, the dollar store
Hmm.
plastic flip flops you bought, for 99 cents. That's what they're talking about.
Gotcha. So
Um,
if I dress
then
in
you
drag, I should be good to go with my flip flops.
Exactly, especially if make sure they're sparkly. They need to be sparkly. So, then as far as cruise elegant dress code, they're for men, dress slacks, dress shirts, and you are not required to wear a sport coat, but they do suggest a sport coat, possibly a suit and tie, tuxedo. For women, cocktail dresses, pantsuits, elegant skirts and blouses, evening gowns. I mean, you see, dressed Sunday dress like what you might wear to church, and then you see all out evening gowns. Whatever you want to choose for that. Again, not permitted. Jeans, sleeveless shirts, shorts, t-shirts, gym shorts, things like
Hmm.
that. Um, I will say that in Texas, um, well, let me start by saying that, you know, the thing is, you'll see in my group all the time people like, well, they let me wear my, shorts to the dining room, and the thing is that these are the guidelines that Carnival has, and I mean they want you to enjoy your
Hmm.
stay, and they're trying not to. You had mentioned about, didn't you have a story about getting actually turned away from the dining room?
We went to, I think it was the steakhouse, not the
Mad.
actual dining room. We were wearing a tank top, and they're like, "Yeah, no, you can't wear tank tops, flip flop, shorts." I'm like, "But we didn't get our luggage yet, and we're in Florida going on a cruise ship in the middle of summer. I'm not gonna wear like a giant button up." The other
That was
guys had a polo on, but
the first night
first
they were
night we
they were
went to
doing
that.
that. Really? Wow.
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of different kinds of outfits on the first night because, again, most of the time they're pretty understanding of the fact that you might not have your luggage. I'm really surprised that they turned you away.
And we had like
I am
reservations and
surprised.
everything as well. So I'm like, well, if
Oh,
we
no,
don't
no.
have this,
Oh, you were at the steakhouse. You weren't
yes,
in
not
the
the
dining
dining
room.
room. Hmm.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, they're a little uppity about the steakhouse, So,
Phenomenal
well,
meal. Thankfully, our luggage was there. My advice would be
yes.
keep like a nice shirt, maybe nice dress pants, in a carry-on bag or something with you, just in case you want to have like a formal outfit, because you never know when it can turn up.
Right. That'd be a really good idea. It's just that, like you said, usually your carry on, maybe you've got a little tiny some. I mean, it's hard to pack your dress clothes in your carry on. And again, that's
Hmm.
why normally they're very lenient, but I'm surprised to hear that. But, long story short, because I know I tend to ramble. So in Texas, um, there's a big case of not following the posted rules that Carnival has because many men in this state, their idea of dressing up, which I agree with because oh god, but starched jeans, nice pair of boots, starched shirt, maybe a jacket, collar, tie, whatever. But this is how our men dress around here most of the time, and you don't want a bunch of mad cowboys standing in the dining room that can't go eat their steak. You know what I'm saying? So they tend to be. I think it has to do with the region you're cruising from, where they're going to go with that. I'm sure they realized
Hmm.
early on that getting one of our men around here to get dressed up in the first place isn't an easy task. And I gotta say they look pretty good. To me, they look even better than some of the men got their suits on. And they're nothing like a man in a nice pair of jeans he looks good. But I
So,
will say that it's not listed in the carnival that Texas is our exception. It's not. You're not going to find it in their rules.
mhm.
But you go in the dining room in a cruise out of Galveston, you are going to see many men dressed up very nicely, looking great, but in jeans, boots, a jacket, that sort of thing. So it is going to happen, and
So
it
that's called
depending
a
on where you're cruising from.
Texas tuxedo, right? The jean jacket, the jeans,
Go
the
George
nice
Strait.
boots.
Yeah,
Texas
exactly.
tuxedo.
Yeah, George Strait just started that one. He wore the whole. It was a whole tuxedo minus the pants, and it was jeans and boots. That's the way we do it here. And if they want us to cruise out of Texas, that's about the best that these Texas boys are going to get from them.
So tell us a bit about the steakhouse. I've been there before, but my memory's really bad. So what about the steakhouse? I know it's a little bit
Did you
more of a
have a few
feat.
glasses? Did you have a few fun ship specials before you got to the steakhouse, Matt? Is that what happened? You don't remember
I
it?
I had a couple drinks here and there. I do remember they did charge me a tax for the drinks, even though I had my all you can drink card. They still charged me a tax because as of the port. I might have had 4, 5. It was my first time. Dinner was at 6 o'clock that night at the steakhouse, so memory's a little bit fuzzy navel, if you know what I mean.
You show up with your little hat on with the beer cans on either side and your tank top at the steakhouse, and you're like, "Hey man, where's my steak?"
Exactly. Food was phenomenal though there.
Oh, I love the steakhouse. Other than the fact that, be prepared no matter, if you go to the steakhouse, it's going to take about 2 or 3 hours. But you're talking about, don't quote me on this, I can't say for sure, but you're looking at like a 7-course meal that they bring to you, the steak and the seafood, the lamb, everything cooked to perfection. It's delicious. It just it takes a while to cook a meal like that and get it perfect. So for me, if I go on a 4-day cruise, I usually don't go to the steakhouse because it's just there's not enough time for everything. But when we go for a week long cruise, my husband and I always go to the steakhouse. Love the steakhouse. Love the food. But
How much is it, do you know?
I do know, actually, again, I made some notes. So, when I was looking on the Carnival website, I was surprised. I thought there were more pay restaurants than this, but it only had 4 listed. So these are the
Hmm.
ones that of course, the steakhouse. And it's $35 per adult and $10 per child. And 11 and under is a child. And I could list all the ships it's on, but there's a steakhouse on almost all of the Carnival
Mm-hmm.
ships. There might be some that they don't have, but most of them are listed. Some of
$35
the other special.
sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, if you get a 7-course meal and really nice premium cut steaks, $35 is really cheap per person.
Oh, it for this kind of, if you went to any premium 5-star steakhouse here in Texas or anywhere else, this meal. Well, my husband and I went to a steakhouse where they had Kobe beef. We spent $300 on our anniversary dinner one year. He wanted one of those really nice steaks, and for $35. This isn't Kobe beef, but for
Mm-hmm.
$35, this is an awesome steak.
Oh
It
yeah.
would be. This is a meal you'd pay $100 for. Seriously. Um,
Holly Coppersmith on Facebook says, Steakhouse is top notch, worth the cover charge. What a great experience. I had a
Agree.
phenomenal time as well. Definitely a
I
must go
agree.
to on the ship.
I agree. And also on the steakhouse, if you aren't aware of it, on the first night of the cruise, if you go, I don't know if you remember this, Matt. Probably not. But on the first night of the cruise, you get a free bottle of wine per cabin to eat there. And also now they've also started not only the first night, but the first elegant night, which is almost always on the second night of your cruise. So basically, the rule of thumb, your first and second night of your cruise, when you go to the steakhouse, they will give you a complimentary, really cheap bottle of wine, but it's still free. But you do get that when you go to the steakhouse on the first or second night. Um, what was I? feel like there was something else I was going to say about the steakhouse, but I can't remember. Oh, I like to go to the steakhouse on Elegant Night. I know everybody wants to go to the dining room because that's when they get the lobster and everything, but the ambiance in there, it's a much smaller place. It's quieter. The lighting is dim, and you're all dressed up. And I love to go there with my husband. We're all looking good and look nice, and
Hmm.
I like to go on Elegant Night. A lot of people don't want to miss out on the lobster and everything in the dining room, but for $35, I'll just go ahead and go there because I mean, it's a fun experience, especially
Hmm.
if you're all dressed up. I just it makes you even feel. I mean, I guess you have to dress up all the time when you go to the steakhouse, but your Elegant Night dress, you put that one
Oh
aside
yeah.
just for Elegant Night. So,
So, what other
there's
outfits
a
would you
couple of
want to wear
other.
to some of the other restaurants?
Well, I was going to tell you real quick the four listed
Hmm.
pay restaurants that you can get on Carnival. There's a steakhouse. Um, they also have. I hope I'm saying it right. I haven't been on the Vista yet. Gigi's. I hope it's not Jai Jai's. I'm assuming it's Gigi's
GG's.
Asian Kitchen. Gigi. Okay, that's the Asian Kitchen, and that's on the Carnival Horizon, the Carnival Sunshine, and the Carnival Vista. For dinner, that is $15 per person and $5 for children. They also have the Cucina del Capitano, and that is their Italian restaurant. That is a pay for restaurant. It's $15 for dinner, $5 for children, but you can eat there for free at lunch. It's not the same menu. I think they do it buffet style. I haven't actually been to that one. I can't believe it, um but then and that one is on the Breeze, the Horizon, the Magic, the Sunshine, and the Vista. And then the last thing that you can do for a fee, I don't know, have you ever done the chef's table, Matt?
I have not, unfortunately. It definitely sounds like a place I would want to go to, though. Tell me a little bit more about it, though.
Wow, it's amazing. Now the chef's table is $75 per person. They don't list a child's price, so I'm thinking maybe they discourage you from bringing your kids. In fact, I'm almost now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think you. I think they have an age limit on that. Um, on the Carnival Breeze, the Dream, Horizon, Magic, and Vista, it's $95 per person. And basically, what this is you have the head chef cooking you personally a gourmet meal. I can't remember how many courses. You're in the galley. It's amazing. One thing that you might not know is if you're going to go, ladies, you have to wear closed-toed shoes when you're in the galley, safety reasons. So
Hmm.
it's really, all my cute little heels, I'll have peep toes or something. So it's hard for I was like, ugh, closed toe shoes. But anyway, it's a great experience. If you thought the steakhouse was good, and also, if you're kind of a foodie and you like different, I mean, this isn't your norm. I mean, they're not going to bring you out just normal. I mean, there is all kinds of interesting, unique things that maybe something you've never tried before, something you've never eaten.
Hmm.
So if you're willing to try something new, which I always am, I figure, hey, if you don't like it, spit it out, right? I mean, at least try it and see if it's good. So I'm willing to try it, try
That's why I
something
really
new.
enjoyed it was the sit down dinner. They always had that exotic food menu for the night. It was always my
Mm.
favorite part because usually I wouldn't want to go out to a restaurant, order frog's legs or bison tongue or anything of that nature just because, I'm paying for it. But it's included in your ship's, price, so that's kind of worth it to try this. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything, just maybe a bad taste, or maybe you'll develop a like for maybe escargot, like some of my other buddies on the ship.
Oh,
But again,
I
that's included
love
on the cruise.
escargot. The escargot in the dining room is exceptional, but the escargot in the steakhouse, I just want to take a bath in it. I do. I just want to
Oh
dab it
yeah.
behind my ears, and it's
See,
so good.
I really liked the escargot in the steakhouse. When I had it in the dining, it was okay. The steakhouse almost tasted like mushrooms and like very buttery
Right.
mushrooms, and it was just so tender and sweet. You would
Perfect.
never
It
imagine it's
was perfect.
snails. It was perfect.
Yes. Yes, it was perfect. In the dining room, I think maybe because of the need to get things out quickly and have things
Mm-hmm.
prepared, um, I think that the escargot in the dining room, I've noticed it's very oily. There's a lot of oil in there, olive
Mm-hmm.
oil or something. It's almost too much, but in the steak,
It's
it's
sublime. It's
so
amazing.
good. I love
So
it. I love
that's
trying new foods. I love trying new foods.
so what else is included with our cruise ship ticket? I know the pizza is 24/7, all you can eat pretty much. But what other different amenities for eating do they have on the ship?
So if you don't want to pay extra, there's several choices for you. The pizza, like you mentioned, there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In addition to the main dining room, you have on the Lido deck. There's always a buffet going on there, buffet style for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Um, you can get, your. They have an omelet station, and by the way, some people don't realize this, but I don't like their scrambled eggs. And I like a couple of fried eggs. And if you go to the omelet station, you can get the guy to whip you up a couple of fresh fried eggs right there. You just got to stand in line for the omelet guy. But, a lot of people don't, they're like, hey, where'd you get those fried eggs? And I'm like, from the
Mm-hmm.
omelet guy. So, yeah, that's nice. And so they have the Lido. Uh, Down by the pool area, you'll find the Blue Iguana Cantina and also the Red Frog Rum Bar. Oh, they don't serve food at Red Frog Rum Bar. Sorry about that. Blue Iguana Cantina. They're the ones they'll have breakfast tacos and tacos for lunch. You get to pick your tortilla and your meat and your toppings and all that. It's
Mm-hmm.
really good. I haven't been on the Vista yet. We'll be on the Vista. When y'all mentioned the cruise that y'all are fixing going on in October, you need to mention that it's the fourth annual Carnival Cruisers Past, Present, and Future cruise that you're going on,
I will
and on
make
the
sure to edit
Vista.
that in my notes.
Yes, on the Vista. So on the Vista, they have the Havana area, and they have a
Mm-hmm.
Havana bar. Now, I believe the Havana bar, the food there would be like at the Red Frog Pub that they have on several of the ships, where they have appetizers and snacks, but you have to pay for them. They're not included in your
Mm-hmm.
cruise. And then room service. A lot of people don't realize that the majority of your room service menu is complimentary. It's included in the price of your cruise. You want a sandwich, you want a BLT, you want a turkey sandwich, you want some cookies, you want a piece of chocolate cake. There's room service. Now, they have in the last, I guess it's been about the last year, maybe a little more, they did add some pay menu items for room service, but they're super cheap. You can get a Philly cheesesteak sandwich for, I don't know, $3. They have French fries and hot wings, and they have a pan pizza. I can't remember everything that they had on there, but there's several choice. They're more hot choices, instead of just a
Mm-hmm.
cold sandwich. The Carnival Deli is usually on all the ships I've been on. It's on the Lido deck, right around the corner from the buffet. They have a deli counter where you can get pastrami sandwiches and turkey sandwiches, roast
Mm-hmm.
beef, all kinds of stuff. Um, Whenever I was looking on the Carnival website, that they have the chopsticks Asian delights. Um, it said it was included in the price of your cruise, but I don't know if I've been on. Surely I've been on a ship that had that. Maybe I didn't eat it. Um, on the Magic, and I know a couple of other ships. They're not on very many of them. They have the Indian tandoor out by the. It's a poolside restaurant. If you like Indian food, Matt, I love Indian food. Do you like Indian
I
food?
absolutely love Indian food. Indian
Did
Thai
y'all eat
food,
it on the
make it
Magic?
spicy.
You were
Hmm?
on the Magic, weren't you? Did you go
I
on the
had it
Magic?
the first day, and then I was either busy or napping
You
where I missed
forgot.
it most of the other days.
That's what I do. I'd be like, oh man, I should have got the Indian for lunch. I forgot about it. It's great. It's a little
It's
buffet
so good.
style, and you have three or four little choices, and then the bread that they have all the. And I
Naan,
loved it. It
ooh,
was so
so
good.
good. They usually
It's not
have a
on very
good
many ships,
vegetarian
though.
too.
They do. It's not on very many ships. I wish they had on more because it's right out there by the pool. Usually, like on the other ships, like where they have the Pizza Pirate, and then they have the
Hmm.
little on the Magic. It's right out there by the pool. Love the Indian place. I wish they had it on
Oh
more
yeah.
places.
Me too,
Another
me
big
too.
hit is the Mongolian Walk. I don't the food is great, but I don't hardly go to it because it takes you 30 minutes to stand there in line to get that. It's good. Don't get me wrong. You get to choose your meat and your sauce and the veggies you want in it. It's really good. They got it going in the wok and it's all smoking. It's really good. But oh my God, the line for that place. I mean, it's a testament to how good it is, but the line is out the door. So yeah. Also, of course, the immensely popular Guy's Burger Joint. I have there's some tips that I had posted in the group about some of the food tips that you might like. And one lady, I didn't even think about this. It was such a great idea. So she goes and gets her Guy's Burger, and she tells them no cheese. And then she walks around the corner to the deli and gets some Swiss from the deli. They'll just, if you ask them, can I get some Swiss cheese? Or like on the lunch buffet, usually they'll have all kinds of cheeses and cold cuts and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then go get the sauteed mushrooms, mushroom and Swiss burger. It's so good. I'm like, why did I never think of that? So I guess I didn't realize you could go just ask for cheese. But then we talked about the blue iguana cantilla. And then some of the restaurants have either like a seaside barbecue, mm-hmm. which I'm from Texas, so we're not going to talk about their seaside barbecue right now. Anyway, they're trying. It's an option if you'd like to go there. But they also have, on some of the ships, a few of them, they have a sea dog where you can get, where they serve hot dogs, and they have all the condiments, if you want sauerkraut or mustard, ketchup, all that stuff, relish to go, onions, and they have the sea dog thing. So there's, you're never going to go hungry on a cruise. That's for sure. Of course not.
If you're going hungry on the cruise, you're definitely not taking advantage of any of the offers that they have there.
Right. I do wish, I mean, if it were something that I could, get Carnival to look at our group and see where things can change, because I know that we're almost at 100,000 members now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're there. They know who we are. And they do listen. And they need more. I mean, let's face it, it's Carnival. We most of us on there, we're partying, we're having a good time. At 2:00 in the morning, I've been drinking, I've been having fun. I want something to eat usually. Mm-hmm. And it's either wait for an hour for room service because everybody else on the ship is also ordering room service, or go stand in line for 30 minutes for some pizza. And then if you order more than like one slice or something, they're like, well, can I? And everybody's glaring at you like, can you just move on?
That's what happened with us too.
I know some of the ships are starting to do more things, like having a small, like a snacky kind of buffet with maybe hot dogs and chicken fingers and stuff like that out by the pool. But I think they all need to do that. We really need to have more options to be able to eat later, because not everybody's going to be in bed by 9:00. And by the time midnight rolls around,
you're hungry
was
again.
6 hours ago, man. I'm ready for a snack.
Yep. I like to hoard a little bit of food, so if I go out, I might get some of the fruit from breakfast, store it with me, and then put it in my fridge for later at night, just to have something to snack on, because I know, drunken me in the middle of the night, it's like, I'm hungry, I want something to eat, let me go find something. Oh, right here in my fridge, great.
If you're a foodie, Matt, so this is another great idea. This is what I love to do. At the end of dinner, you have a choice to have a cheese plate. Take that sucker back to your cabin. And you got your cheese plate. When you get back, I love cheese. And it has cheese, it has some pears and some little grapes on it. That's a perfect snack too, late at night, is that cheese tray. I love having the cheese tray. I always have one back at the cabin after dinner. I always order one even if I'm not going to eat it, because I'm going to take it back to the cabin.
Nice. Well, Chali, thank you so much for being on tonight. We always enjoy your segments.
Thank you. Oh, I wanted to mention real quick, too. Sorry that you've all been invited to my boudoir for the evening. We're trying to figure out better sound and lighting and things. I was trying to do it from my dining room where, I have some nice, back, the light, everything. But I have tile flooring, and it was very echoey, and the camera wasn't working as well in there. So I'm gonna have my husband build me some cool little tropical backdrop that can block my bed from showing on the show. So we've got 2 weeks to make that happen. Hopefully next time it's gonna look like I'm in a tropical paradise. You know, you don't know my bed's behind us. So
Well, good
sorry
luck
about
with
that.
that. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back on the next segment.
And
In
it's
order
Chali.
In order to make our next season of Cruise Week work, we need your support. Help us reach our funding goal, and we will give you something back. We now have our Inner Circle shirts that are exclusively for our Inner Circle members to show the love and support for the show, and the information we bring to you each and every week. Check out our support page at cruiseweek.tv/support. And you too can grab one of these super cool shirts. And let's make Season 2 happen. Joe is back next week and we'll be talking to Amanda Hawthorne from Get a Life at Sea. They are one of the crew recruiters and will be able to tell you all about what goes into gathering the massive crew complements for all of those ships. Why you don't see a lot of Americans working on the ships and how they organize so many people. Okay guys, it's about that time. I hope you enjoyed our show. Make sure to give us a like, give us a share if you guys really love us. Check out our support page. We also have our merchandise page too now where I designed some of the things, so you could probably pick out some of the ones I made. Let me know in the comments, you can kind of guess which ones I made. So, well guys, we'll see you next time. And as always, we'll see you on the ships.